Okay, we're going to go ahead and go through Exit Slip 1.8, which explores a little bit about histograms and making them, and also looking at the shapes of some of these histograms that we've been looking at. So here's a survey for Mrs. Ty's 4th grade class, and it shows the number of problems answered correctly on their daily math speed quiz. So you can see the number. They've kind of made the categories for us here to make it a little simpler on labeling our number lines. We've got 0 through 5 kids. 0 through 5 correct. We had 0 students do that. All the way up to we had 2 kids get between 26 and 30 correct and would fall into that bin. So we're going to go ahead and label our axes and title the graph. Okay, so the table that we're looking here on the graph, this would be, we could label it, they're talking about the speed quiz, so we could put speed quiz scores. Again, that could vary a little bit on your title. Okay, and we got to label these axes here. And down below in the bins, they've kind of set that for us. So if we're going to label these, sometimes it's be kind of tough. A lot of times you go by 5s. But in this case, I think since the first one's 6, we're going to label here. We'll start with 0, and then we'll go to 6 here, and 11, 16, 21, and 26, okay? Because remember, if it lands on exactly one of these, it goes into the higher bin. So kind of the way they labeled these, we know if it's between 6 and 10, there were 3 kids, so that would mean that it would go into that 6 to 10 bin, since they told us that. On the other axis, we've got to decide, now this is how many kids fall into these bins. So if I look at the number of students that fall into these bins, it only goes to 7. So I could probably go by 1s or 2s. I could run out of room, so you kind of got to look, and so I'm going to go by 2s to make this simple. So we're going to start this first one at 0, and this line's 2, and the lines are a little off here, but 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. And over here on my axes, I'd want to label that. This is the number of students. Okay, and the bottom of this would be the number correct on the problems that they got. So we'll just put this as their number correct. And now I can just fill in these bins. So between 0 and 5 would fall in this first bin, because remember, if it's 6, it goes up into the higher one. There's 0 kids, so I don't need to shade anything. 6 through 10, there's 3 kids. So if this is 2, 3 would be about halfway there. Okay, so there are the 3 kids that fall into that bin. Between 11 and 15, we had 5, so that would go up to 5. Remember, the bins touch in a histogram. And between 16 and 20, there were 7. So I'd be up here at 7. And between 21 and 25, there were 5, which would be the same as this one, approximately there. Oops, they would share and touch that there. And then between 26 and 30, there were 2, so we go right up to this line here. And we've created our histogram there now, okay? In this unit, we worked on making histograms, and we have the bars that touch. Here in this case, we know how many students fall into those bins. So again, I can look at this and kind of estimate some things and look at the shape and what that might mean. And in this case, it actually, and you don't have to draw this in, but dealing with the shapes, this is that bell curve or that normal distribution we talked about, which is normal. You see that? Usually there's a lot of kids in the middle, a few higher and a few lower when we take test scores. So this would be pretty close to a normal distribution, or that bell curve we talked about. Remember, we can estimate that the mean and the average would be somewhere in here. And when it's a bell curve, the median and mode are probably going to be somewhere in there too, or close together. Okay, and that's not the case with all shapes of graphs, but in this case, we could estimate it'd be somewhere around in here. Okay, in this middle one where you see most of them. Okay, that is discussing that shape, and this is just kind of that normal distribution that we see. There's also some questions to answer here. I'm not going to move this because I've drawn this graph on here, but I'll go ahead and read through these questions that are down below on your hard copy here. It says, how many students took the quiz? And guys, a couple different ways. I could just add these up. I could also figure out and find from here that this is 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 5 plus 2. We can add all those up and we'll find out on question B, and again this is down below for you guys, the answer would be 22 students that took the quiz. How many students, on question C it says how many students scored fewer than 15? So I'd have to look at my graph and how many were fewer than 15, so I just look at these two. So how many's fewer than 15, excuse me, would be 8 because I had 5 kids here that fell into this bin, which is fewer than that, and then I had 3 kids that fall into this bin that were less than that 15 mark. So we're only looking at these 2 bins. So there's 5 kids that dropped in there, 3 there, for a total of 8. So question C would be 8 kids. And then how many students didn't take the quiz is question D. And in that case, guys, we don't know that information. There's not enough answer, not enough info, so we can't really answer because we don't know who wasn't there that day. This graph won't tell me that. So these are the main points of your histogram and how to read them a little bit to get some data.